Hi, Graham here from Gel Studios. This tutorial is going to be on MIGXDB. We're going to create a custom manager page with our own schema, PDO classes and unique table. We're going to render it out to the front end, and we're also going to have a little play with PDO. So the first thing we need to do is to pop along to package management and install MIGX. Just do that quickly. And you'll find MIGX under components. There we go. So we need to make a package to sit all of our schema, our PDO classes in. So what is a package? Well, a package is a group of files, and in this case it's going to be files which is going to give MODX all the information it needs to treat our custom package that we're about to make as a PDO object. If we just quickly open up our FTP client, have a look under core components, you'll see that there's 3 for the extras that I've installed at the moment. We're going to go ahead and create a new one simply called Testimonials. If we just click OK to that, and if we just refresh, we'll notice that a new folder has been made, and inside here is just a basic folder structure with a blank schema file at the end. If we just quickly pop back here, and whilst we've got testimonials in there and XML schema, we need to give this a XML schema of what we want our tables to be in our database. And here's a schema that I've made earlier. So let me just copy that and paste that in, and I'll just run you through it quickly. So the most important stuff is these first couple which are up here. So we've got the package name, which we've called testimonials. We've got the table. Now the table is going to transpire into the name of the table in our database. And we've also got the class. Now the class, again, you need to remember this because we're going to use it later when we're defining all our custom manager pages and rendering our stuff out to the front end. A good naming convention helps here, so always try to keep this as a single and these as multiples. So with that done, we've then got our fields. Again, try and give the name of the fields for each one of these a worthwhile, a memorable, short name, because this is what we're going to call on later again when we're adding in our custom manager pages and rendering our data out to the front end. So this is a very super simple example. We've got the database type, which is obviously the input field which is to be expected, and this is just varchar, and the precision on that field. We've got 2 more down here which are deleted and published. I always leave these ones in because they also link up to various bits which MIGXDB can use, such as toggle states for deleted and published statuses. So again, let's just remove these lines out of here and just press Save Schema. And we should notice if we just pop back here that this has now got our schema in. There we go. So with the schema in, we can now tell MIGX to make our PDO classes for us, and this is using the parse schema. If we just press that, if we now just jump up inside here, we should see there's another folder made, and inside here is all of the information. All the classes have been automatically made for us, and that's all we need to worry about for now. So the last thing we need to do is we need to physically make the tables in our database, and again MIGXDB can do this for us. Here's my database here, and as we said from our schema file, this will translate to a MODX testimonials table, which isn't there at the moment. So if we just simply pop here and press create tables and reload this, you should see that our testimonials table has been made for us. If we just quickly pop on that structure and open up our schema, you can see how things correlate over. The names are next to the names, the types and the precisions are next to them. So that's part 1. Our schema's been made, our PDO classes are made, and our table creation's been made. So MODX knows that our MIGXDB is there, but we now need to do something with it. So what are we going to do with our information? We're going to give it a custom manager page. It's going to be custom, whereby it's going to be a link which is going to appear at the top. It's not going to be related to any resource, which most template variables and things are. And we can also easily and very quickly come into there and edit the information that we need. So how do we do this? Again, we can do most of this setup through MIGX. So if we just click the MIGX tab and add item, we're going to put a couple of options in just to get us started. So we're going to give it a name, which we're going to simply call Testimonials. Add item replacement. This is what the button's going to say when we want to physically add a new item. So we're going to say add a new testimonial. We're going to give it a unique MIGX ID, which we're going to call Testimonial. We're going to need this in a minute when we tie in our action menu at the top, so remember this. If we then pop to the Custom Manager page, we can give various other bits of information to the page. Main caption is what this is. Tab caption is like one of these tabs at the top, and a tab description is what's rendered in here. So if we just simply give this some stuff to get us started, add, view, or edit a testimonial using the MIGXDB forms below. Now underneath MIGXDB we then have two extra fields that we need, package and class name. Again, if we bring our schema up, wrong one, you can see we've got them there. So the class name, testimonial, and the table, or the package name, sorry, testimonials. So testimonials, testimonial. So let's just save that for a minute and let's go ahead and add our custom page. So we simply go to System and then Actions. We're going to right click on the top menu and create a menu item. We're going to call it Testimonials. We're going to give it an action of MIGX. There we go. And we need to pass some parameters in. And for this, it's going to be config equals, and then our custom MIGX ID. So we call that testimonials. If we click save, and then if we just reload our window, we should see that our custom manager is there. If we give this a click, it should load up our custom page. There we go. So we've got our custom manager page set up, but there's nowhere for us to add or see the information that we've put in. So let's give that option now. If we just quickly pop back and edit our MIGX package, let's give it some things to do. So we'll give this an action button of add an item, and we'll give it a menu so that we can update, we can duplicate, publish, unpublish, and we can even remove items. There we go. So another thing we need to do is we need to give this some columns. So we can do this again all through here. So if we pop in and we go to columns, we'll give these some meaningful things. So this is going to be our client name. The field is going to match up to what we called our names in here, which are also the same as what we called our fields in here. So this is just going to be name. We're then going to add in their website, which is the field URL. We're going to add in their email address, which is email. And I think we're going to add in, what was the last one there? Comment. So we'll give it as the actual testimonial, which we'll call it the comment. Now we're going to add another one in here, which is published, and this one's going to be ever so slightly different. What we're going to do for this one is we're going to make this render out. So it's going to interpret the data and it's going to render it as a cross tick. We'll see what this means in a minute. One of the other ones that we're going to put in is ID. Now you might notice that ID we haven't specified anywhere in our schema. This gets put in automatically. And when I first started to learn MIGXDB, I had a major problem whereby when I went to edit or update a resource, it would just render out blank. And this was because I didn't include this field. So always make sure that you include ID, and I always just put this at the top. So if we just press done and we reload our page, you should notice that we've now got the ability to add a new testimonial, and we've got all of our fields there. But what do we do if we press add a new testimonial? Well, we add it, but nothing's in there. That's because we haven't specified the forms that we want. If we just close this, again, pop back to our MIGX config, this time we're going to go to Form tabs, and we're going to add a new Form tab. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give this Form tab a title. So we'll just call this a testimonial. We're then going to add, very similarly to the way that we did with columns, all of the fields and the way that they're going to be rendered. So we're going to call this name, client name, we're going to add email, email address, and what we can do here is we can specify the expected input TV type. So for this we're going to say that we want this to be email. We can similarly do something for the website as well. We can specify that this is of input type URL. Then we can also do another one for what we want our comment to be, which in this case is going to be a rich text field. The last one is going to be ever so slightly different, and this is going to be our published flag. What we're going to do here is we're going to set this as a checkbox, but we're going to pop up here to input options. We're going to give this a default input option of yes, with a default option of 1. And this is going to tie in with our render cross tick that we did earlier. So instead of showing a 1 or a 0, it's going to show a tick or a cross based on whether it's published or not. So if we just press done and done again, we should now be able to pop back and add some information. We will add a testimonial. Here we go. So let's just put some information in here. Again, it's recognized all of our different types that we wanted. And we'll give this and again, obviously where this is rich text, we can style this however we want. And we'll then give this a tick to say it's published. There we go. Now if we right click, we'll just duplicate this one. Let's give this something else, just to make sure. And we'll leave this one as unticked. So you can see here the difference. We can just quickly pop in and mark it. There we go. So we'll leave this unticked for the moment so we've got something to test against when we do section 3. Section 3 is going to be on how we get this information to render out to the front end. So let's pop along to our template and let's have a look at the snippet that we call to get our information to loop out. In this case, it's MIGX loop collection. And MIGX loop collection takes a couple of parameters. The first is the name of the package, which we know is testimonials. The second is the class name, which again we know is testimonial. The third is the template. And the fourth, we're going to use the where clause, which simply takes an object, and as you can see in here, we're checking to show if published equals 1. So let's just jump into our template testimonial to see how this is rendered out. So you notice underneath here that we're using some things which are very similar to those that have used get resources and other such things. We simply have the double square brackets and a plus. And how do these match up? Well, these match up to the names that we specified up here, and they also match up exactly to what we specified in our initial schema. So you see the importance of setting these as good, knowledgeable names right from the off, so you can use them all the way through. And if we just very quickly have a look at how that renders out. There we go. So we can see that our comments rendered, the name, the email address, and a link to the website. And we can now very quickly jump into testimonials. We can just right click, edit, update our statuses, refresh, and there we go. Nice and quick, really easy to update. And we'll see that the information is all in its own table. So that really is the end of the MIGXDB. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a little look at how we can use XPDO. So XPDO, let's get started on it. Once you started using XPDO, you won't want to use anything else. Let's jump into our elements and then our testimonial snippet. Now I've put some base stuff in here to get us started. It's effectively just showing where our package is and declaring relevant bits and bobs. You can find this on Bob's Guide, Introduction to Objects, and so on and so forth. I learned all of my stuff from Bob's Guide, and it's really been a good starting block to get me started on all the other stuff. So we're going to have a look at manipulating the information that's in our table, and we're going to look at three things. The first is adding a new object. So if we want to add a new object, it's simply a case of declaring a variable and saying that it's MODX newObject, and then we call the class of the name. So we're going to say testimonial, and then we're going to say that we want to do various things to this. So we're going to say we want to set the name as Tony Stark. We're then going to say that we want to set the email as tony@avengers.org. So you should get an idea here that we're passing in a key and a value. We're going to set this to and the last one that we're going to do, which is just going to be ever so slightly different, is going to be the comment, because we put HTML into that one. So after we've done all those, what do? Well, we just simply call testimonial save, and that would create a new object and save it to our database. Let's just save that. Let's just view the page. That won't actually do anything. If we jump underneath here and refresh the page, there we go, it's added in. Now this is going to take us very nicely onto the next one. You can notice here that we've not published it. Now, yeah, we could right click there, edit, and untick it, but let's do this with XPDO. So we're going to have to get an object now. Getting an object is very similar to a new one. All we simply do is this turns into MODX getObject. Now to find things, you can pass in an array of values to search over. So for example, for this one, we might do something like ID is equal to 3. Now ID is a bit of an exception to the rule, because what we can do if we're only searching for something through the ID is just pass it in on its own. We'll look at putting an array of search options on in a moment though. So this is going to off and get the object with the ID of 3, which we know is this. So what we want to do now is we want to update this. So how do we do that? Well, it's exactly the same as the way we did it for when we were making a new object. We simply say that we want to set our published status to 1. And then once we're done with it, again, exactly the same. We want to save it. Let's just call this again. If we just refresh this, oh, something's not worked there. Let's go and have a quick look at our error log. See what it says. Nothing. So what have I done wrong? I've got this wrong. That's why. There we go. That's what happens when you're typing too quickly. So if we just save that, refresh that, we pop back into our testimonials. There we go. It's published. So there's one last thing which I want to show you. So what do we do if we want to loop over options? What do we do if we get something and it returns more than 1? How do we deal with it? So for the purposes of this, let's grab everything in here which is published, and we'll change it to non-published. So again, a couple of things that we have to change here. First thing that we're going to change is this. We're going to change getObject to getCollection. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to pass in an array of arguments to search over. Now in this case it's going to be that we're searching for published is equal to 1. So this is going to go off and it's going to fetch everything which has got a published status of 1, which at the moment is all 3 of these. Let's give this a name of testimonials, because this will make the next bit much clearer. So we're going to go and do a for each loop. And the first parameter that we're going to pass in is this. So we're going to say for each testimonials as testimonial. So this means that whilst we're inside this for each block, whilst we're looping over everything, we can access the specific one as testimonial, so a single option. We're then going to simply do what we did before. Testimonial set published equals 0. And then once we're done with it, testimonial save. So this should go off and fetch everything with a published status of 1. It should loop over them all, and one at a time it should put it as 0 and then save. So if we save this, refresh this, and then reload this, we should see that they're all changed. There we go. So that's a very, very quick way of using the API and MODX XPDO to be able to update things, to be able to make a new object, to be able to update an existing object, or to be able to loop over a collection of many objects. I hope this tutorial gives you a good starting block into using MIGXDB. If you're like me, you now won't have any solution where you won't use this for. It's a great tool. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to email me. If there's any other tutorials that you'd like, please feel free to post and comment. And again, thank you all for your support of the MIGX TV. I hope that this one's been just as good for MIGXDB. Thank you.